I'll tell you when we let them in.
Yes, I see it. We can go.
Okay, then just a second. You see my screen shared?
Yep.
Number 5. Okay, we can let them in.
Okay, they're admitted.
Here's the man who's provided one of the missing links for the Bulls, Sam Vincent. Look at this frenzied full-court pressure. Vincent breaks it, has Jordan on the wing. The lob, the jam!
Hey, now watch it again. The communication came. Michael gave the signal. Sam saw it. Sam threw it. Michael finished it off.
So far, it's a double shutout. Sam Vincent controlling left for the Bulls, takes the long jumper and sticks it. And Scottie Pippen the rebound ahead to Vincent. Sam hustles it on the drive, in on Dumars, all the way, lays it in. Sam Vincent to the hoop, and the Bulls lead 6-3. Sam Vincent outside left, dumps it into Scottie Pippen, lost the ball, got it back, plays it back out to Vincent, 12 on the shot clock. Left corner Pippen, Scottie with a fake, beats Vincent, left of the circle, shot by Sam, it's in!
All right, Sam.
Sam Vincent with 6 points here, and the Bulls in front by 14.
That was a great play by Sparrow. He pulled that time. He pulled Bentley down on
There
him.
was no foul.
No foul call.
Here's Vincent off to the right against Dumars. Sam Vincent with 12 to shoot. Takes a long jumper and Sam Vincent with 27. He's mailing him in from Lansing. Sam Vincent, 11 out of 12 from the field. Jordan is back in for the Bulls. He comes in to Vincent. Sam strolls into the front court against Vinnie Johnson.
Hello, everybody. My name is Anna Tadevosyan. I work for World Learning. I'm now based in Yerevan, Armenia. I want to thank everybody for being with us today. This is our third sports webinar. The program is part of the International Sports Programming Initiative, a State Department sports diplomacy exchange program implemented by World Learning. This webinar is produced by World Learning and Digital Communication Network, a coalition of digital influencers for improving the information space, supported by US Department of State's Office of Citizen Exchanges. So now I want to introduce our speaker today, and it is former NBA player, NBA champion in 1986 with Boston Celtic, Sam Vincent. Now Sam is working with AAU, and I want Sam, you to talk with us about more about AAU, about your work, about how you started with them. Sam, please.
Well, good morning or good afternoon, depending on where you are, Anna. It's good to see you, and I'm happy to have this chance to be a part of the sports diplomacy webinar. I'm a big fan of the work that you and Vlad do, so it's always a pleasure to have a chance to join you. Also, thanks to the audience of whoever's joining us. It's really exciting for me to have a chance to be on and talk about basketball, most importantly, but also to have a chance to cover some of the things that I'm currently doing, some of the things that I've been active with over the last few years, and why I do it and why I'm so excited about it. So, and I think you asked me how I got involved or why I'm involved, and I'm gonna tell a quick story. Which I think provides a little bit of landscape and a little bit of foundation for kind of how I got to where I am. I was born in Lansing, Michigan, and probably somewhere around my 8th or 9th birthday, I was introduced to basketball. My older brother Jay Vincent also played basketball, and by that time he was 4 years older and starting to become a pretty good player. As his little younger brother, I was kind of mesmerized by this new activity that my older brother was involved with, and just felt it was something that I might be interested in doing as well. Sometime that year, a local AAU coach by the name of Javier Cavazos came up and said, "Hey, we've got a youth group. We're forming some 9-year-old teams. Do you want to play? And I remember, like it was yesterday, telling Coach Javier Cavazos, yes, I want to play. I want to be involved. And he put together the first AAU basketball team that I played on. And that experience was pretty incredible. The AAU team that I played on was an assortment of local kids that were playing not only in our community, but Coach Cavazos was organizing tournaments and events for us to play in outside of the city. So at an early age, at 9 years old, I was playing around the state of Michigan and even outside of Michigan. And that experience at an early age, jumping into the sport, playing with other guys, but having a chance to go around and see some of the competition really started to create some real interest in basketball. And so when I look at my early roots of how I got started and what really was the catalyst behind me getting involved with playing basketball, it was the AAU organization, which later on in other years, as I grew and continued to play, played a vital role in my development. And it's a big part of why I have remained connected to the AAU organization. Of course, there's been thousands of other basketball players that have come through that organization, but everybody's story is unique and different. And I always appreciate the fact that coach, who was just not a great coach, not a no big recognition, just a dad that was willing to organize 8 kids, put them on a team, and take them around and teach them this game, has been really the genesis and the reason why I support the organization and feel so strongly about the things that they do.
Thank you, Sam. And we have my colleague here, Vlad Spencer, who will act as a commentator today, and will start to go over Sam's life, sport life.
That's not an easy thing to do. So thank you, Anna. And thanks, Sports Diplomacy. I know that our State Department Program Officer is with us, Ryan Murphy. If he's going to be here towards the end of this webinar, then we'll ask him to say a few words. But Sam, now what I will try to do is actually go to a few moments of your life. So you started already, but I'm trying to make both of us a little bit younger, and start with your college career. So after high school, after you broke, what was supposed to be became the star, Magic Johnson, his high school record in scoring in high school. Then you are selected by you went to Michigan State in your state, and you became in 1981 Mr. Basketball. So maybe you could tell us a little bit about your high school, college career. Many of the people in the audience are either coaches or young players, and I'm sure they will be inspired to hear from you. In relation to what was your initial experience after the initial one with AAU.
Well, I tell you what, to really properly provide color and context to that experience, I've got to back it up just a few more years to really help you understand where my passion around basketball was developed. And my older brother, Jay Vincent, which I mentioned earlier, along with Irvin Johnson, who you just kind of mentioned as the person whose record I broke. You said that I didn't. They were my early motivation. Jay played at Lansing Eastern, the high school that we both went to, and Irvin Johnson is who he was called at that time, played at Lansing Everett. And these two guys were the titans in the Lansing area, and probably even the state of Michigan. Whenever they played, there'd be a 6,000 person crowd, and the games were electric, and they were intense. And it was from watching these two guys play that I really developed my interest to continue to be committed and really want to make this a career path. By the time I got to Eastern, I had watched these guys. I had tried to find ways where I could grow from watching them play. and had incorporated a lot of the different things from each of their games into mine. My senior year, as you mentioned, I received the first Mr. Basketball in the state of Michigan. And you know how it is, Vlad. Sometimes you have to kind of get further in life to appreciate some of your accomplishments, which I now have a chance to kind of reflect back on. But for any of the young audience, what I can tell them is it's important to identify something that you're really passionate about doing. And that passion drives your energy. And once that passion drives your energy, it creates a work ethic. And so I spent considerable hours on the basketball court. I was willing to play all the time, compete. And that was really, kind of my early foundation to get me on to Michigan State, where I went, after my high school days.
Definitely. And the scoring record I mentioned is not fake news. Now it's real. It's, everybody wrote about this. So you did break his record, Magic Johnson's record in high school. So now let's go a little bit later. So obviously, Mr. Basketball in Michigan, your home state, you get selected, for the NBA, which is something so rare. That means, not too many people, young people, good basketball players, accomplish this amazing thing to join this amazing league, the NBA. However, you're not selected in Michigan, where Detroit team was based, but rather in Boston. How did you feel? That means, how did you feel at that time when, with all this aura of success in Michigan, you were moving to Massachusetts?
Well, I think any young, inspiring athlete always wants to reach the top. And of course, for basketball players, reaching the top means getting to the NBA. That was my dream. That was my goal. I had watched, incredible historic NBA players like Kareem Abdul-Jabbar and Dr. J and George Gerving. I knew these guys. So my single-minded focus was always to try to figure out how to be a member of that family. And so the work and the effort that I put in was always to reach that goal. Even though I was from Michigan and I was a Detroit Piston fan, I wasn't really pigeonholed into thinking about playing for the Pistons. My goal was to try to reach the NBA. So on the draft day, when I was selected by the Boston Celtics, there was first and foremost just a euphoric kind of feeling to number one, achieve and reach that goal. And then number two, to be able to be selected by such a historic, storied organization. And so even though I was a Piston fan and I was from the state of Michigan and had some incredible Michigan relationships, I never thought about anything other than just trying to achieve the goal, which was to reach the NBA.
And you also chose number 11, for a reason. What was the reason?
I chose number 11 because when I looked around the league, a lot of the guards and really kind of Isaiah Thomas. Isaiah Thomas was somebody I had watched. He was a Big Ten nemesis at the University of Indiana, but he was a fantastic player. He was a great scorer. He could handle the ball. He was a great floor leader. So during that time, watching him, when I got to Michigan State, I thought about, man, I want to wear number 11. And then I just kind of carried on into my professional career as well.
I found a quote when you first joined Boston Celtics. You said, the first training camp was tough because I had high expectations coming in. I thought I would immediately play and get a lot of minutes. And upon getting there, I realized that Celtics were loaded with Hall of Fame guys and great players. How did you feel at the beginning, just being surrounded not only by Larry Bird, but a bunch of amazing, idols of yours, probably?
Well, again, I've got to back up just a little bit to tell you how I felt about joining the Celtics team, because if you back up just a few years, I was an avid Michigan State University fan when my brother Jay and Magic played against Larry Bird and Indiana State in the NCAA finals. And so being an Irvin Johnson fan against Larry Bird and the Boston Celtics, that was something that, you know, is just kind of in your blood. And so getting drafted to the Celtics immediately and knowing that I was joining, you know, Larry, who some years earlier I was pushing back against a little bit, was a little bit of an interesting dynamic. However, when I got there and had a chance to meet the players and connect with the organization, I quickly knew that even though I wasn't going to necessarily have, you know, maybe the minutes that I wanted to have, I was being introduced to something that was bigger even than the sport. It was really about understanding what teams are all about and the work that goes into becoming a champion and what it takes to develop championship principles. And so I really, you know, I struggled in the first year not getting the playing time, but I'll never forget a conversation I had with JoJo White, who was one of their historic, you know, all-time great guards. He came to practice one day and he asked me to go out to lunch with him. And I was kind of in a, you know, a little bit of a mood. I hadn't, you know, been in a lot of the sets during that practice. And so he, I think, noticed that and said, listen, we're going to go over to this little local spot and we're going to sit and talk. And so I followed him over and we spent about an hour with him just, you know, really helping me understand what the Celtics organization was all about. And the fact that as a rookie, I probably wasn't going to play a whole lot, but that what I was going to learn was going to last a lifetime. And JoJo White recently passed, but I'll never forget him as a player, as a mentor, and someone who really helped me along in my rookie season.
And in 1996, you accomplished something that very, very few NBA players do: a championship. How did you feel then? Young players that is having this amazing accomplishment.
Well, again, you know, the beauty of aging and having a chance to look back always, you know, improves your perspective. At that time, you know, every single player that plays, you know, wants to win a championship. They want to get all the way to the top. They want to be a part of those team memories. And that was a very special time. When I look back now and I understand how special that team was, I've seen several quotes from Larry saying that that was the best, you know, NBA team he's played on, that 86 championship team. And that was the year that Bill Walton came over. You know, Bill Walton had some injuries, but for that 86 year, he was able to string it all together and come in and win the Sixth Man of the Year award. Kevin McHale, Dennis Johnson, Danny Ainge, you know, some pure Hall of Famers. So it was, you know, it was an incredible time and a chance to play on what a lot of folks believe was one of the best NBA teams of all time.
And then, you know, jumping a little bit, you know, a couple of years, Chicago Bulls. You know, CBS News ranked you recently among Michael Jordan's best 23 teammates, which is an amazing accomplishment. He had lots of teammates over a very illustrious career. And you are kind of a steady starter for Chicago Bulls early in Jordan's career. So tell us a little bit about the dynamic, not only the Chicago Bulls, where you had amazing seasons, but also playing with what, you know, was about to become the emblematic, you know, figure, personality of the sport.
Well, I met Michael in 1981. We were both selected to the McDonald's All-American team, and the game was being held in Wichita, Kansas. And I remember one afternoon, right before lunch, this was maybe a couple days before the first game, meeting Michael down in the lobby, and Michael and a friend of his, Buzz Peterson, and we sat down and we were just having a conversation. And Michael at that time was a little bit shy, a little bit quiet. And at that time, his name wasn't as big as it later became. And I remember thinking, man, this guy must be really nervous. He's not talking much. He's a late addition. You know, I felt like I wanted to tell him, hey man, it's gonna be okay. Just, you know, come out and play hard, you know, and things are going to be fine. And so, you know, he kind of carried on with that path for a couple of days. And then the day of the game, we had an early morning shoot around where both the East and the West teams went to the arena, and we did some photos, and he was a little bit more animated at that morning session. And I remember, thinking, yeah, maybe he's going to be okay. This guy's probably going to be all right. So by game time, I think he got MVP. I know he scored well over 30 points, and he showed, you know, why he has become a lot of what people consider the GOAT, just the greatest player of all time. And I believe I saw some of that in that McDonald's All-American game. Michael and I remained friends from that time. He went on to the NBA, and I was still at Michigan State, but we stayed telephonically in touch and always had a great relationship. So when I was traded from the Seattle Supersonics in '88 to the Chicago Bulls, I joined them right before the trade deadline. And it was a great reunion with Michael. I immediately fit in with that team. There was a lot of young guys. The peer group was around the same age. We brought in Scotty and Horst that year, so we had some young rookies. And I like to believe that in that '88 season, where Doug Collins was the head coach, it was kind of the beginning of some of the brilliance that we're watching now with the Last Dance documentary. We went on and we won 50 games that year, and we got to the playoffs, and it was very exciting for me to be able to be a part of the foundation of what the Bulls built, which was just an incredible team.
Because you mentioned The Last Dance, an amazing documentary, and I hope that all our audience will watch it. That shows, you know, Michael Jordan at his best, Chicago Bulls at their best. What made them great? What made Michael great? What made that team such an amazing group?
Well, I think early on, from what I saw, what was Michael, you know, he came in as a superstar out of North Carolina. And I think originally he was an incredible scorer, someone who nobody really could stop on the floor. He's going to score points. At that early time, Michael wasn't as focused on being a team leader. He was really focused on, I'm going to go out, I'm going to help you win games by scoring 60 points, and I can do that. But Michael began to evolve into a team leader, and once that evolution took place, that forced the other players around him to grow and also become better players, because he became more demanding in practice. He became more of a perfectionist with everything that was happening on the floor. And I really think the reason why the Bulls had the success that they had was it all stemmed from the leadership that started to come from Michael. And there's some principles that we'll talk about later that I was able to observe that I really believe were part and parcel to why they had the success they had and what made Michael so special as a player.
Definitely. Before getting to the principles, let's mention another moment of your career. You were to Orlando Magic, and there you started the team from scratch. That means it was a new team in the NBA and a new type of experience for you.
Well, the NBA expansion in '89, where new teams were being entered into the league, the Orlando Magic was one of those teams, and I believe, if I'm not wrong, the maximum amount of players that all of the NBA teams could protect, meaning they would not be available for the expansion draft, was 7. So I was currently playing on the Chicago Bulls. They decided to protect 7 players. I was not one of those 7 players protected. Loved being in Chicago, but I knew there was a chance that I could possibly get taken in the expansion draft, which I did. So I was taken by the Orlando Magic and had an opportunity to connect with what I believe was a fantastic organization, was then, still is. The community support was fantastic. And for me, it was a chance to come in and start in the backcourt and start anew, which for those beginning years in Orlando, I really enjoyed.
And immediately after your MBA career, and after that, we'll go back to Anna for the leadership principles. You played in Greece, and then throughout your coaching career, you had obviously an MBA, a couple of years, but also you coach internationally, broadly on many continents. And I want to ask you one question. Your generation was the one that opened up the game, to the world. And NBA's masterful leadership of the game allowed millions and millions of people to become accustomed with basketball. It's not by chance that the basketball became, along with soccer, probably the most popular sport in the world. It's your generation and it's in NBA's leadership accomplishing that. How did you feel about, because lots of our audience comes from abroad, means that all over the world, you'll see at the end, how did you feel about suddenly, opening up and playing abroad, coaching abroad, and interacting with people for whom maybe the NBA and basketball were newcomers?
Well, I think that that credit obviously has to go to the brilliance of the NBA. As a youth growing up in Lansing, I think at that time, the NBA was more of a national organization, being that most of the players were still from the United States. I think the understanding from a marketing standpoint that the personalities and the players, could have global appeal, gave the NBA an idea that, they could start to move the game out internationally. And so, of course, soccer was still, very, very important and relevant at that time and the number one sport. But I think the foresight of the NBA was that this game is incredible. We've seen the response from the domestic fans, and we believe that by exposing these incredible talents to the world, we're going to be able to develop that same kind of audience around the world. And so that brilliant thought led to really the globalization of the sport. So the opportunity for me to leave, from the NBA after I had an injury and then go international, where I started in Greece, and have the chance to be recognized. The fans there knew who I was. They knew what NBA teams I had played on. They were familiar with my career. That was really all the foresight of the NBA. So it's really just been, pretty incredible, as a youth to reach that childhood dream of being connected to this organization, but then even more importantly, to be able to stay involved with it as a player playing internationally and as a coach who I've had a chance to coach now internationally. And a lot of that, again, has stemmed off of the opportunity to be connected to the NBA.
Okay, thank you, Vlad. And before we going to present the Championship Principles Challenge, we have some questions from our participants. I would like to read for you some. So first question we have from Naderim Nagafchi, asking, Greg Popovich says that he hates three-point shot. Do you think he will still hate three-point shot if he would have Klay Thompson, Ray Allen, and Buddy Hield?
I think Coach Popovich would love three-point shots if he had Klay Thompson and Steph Curry. and he probably, I think philosophically, though, on a serious note, every coach decides to develop their offensive strategies around what they're comfortable with. And I think Coach Popovich, who has been one of our brilliant coaches in the NBA, he's probably more comfortable with a inside, kind of dominant game, which he really featured with Tim Duncan and David Robinson, and he's had incredible success with that. So he's never really been a coach that was going to primarily focus on perimeter shooting. So a lot of times coaches have to deal with what they have as far as personnel, and I would probably say that given Steph and Klay, Coach Popovich would probably see things a little bit different.
Yeah, sure. Another question we have from Marek Martinson is asking how you would summarize the important things to craft a team spirit in the sports organization. What's the most important?
Well, I think the most important is to really create a team focus. You really have to be able to understand your personnel, and in understanding that, you know, there's going to be your players who work very hard. There's going to be your players who don't work as hard. There's going to be, you know, maybe some personality challenges. There's going to be a lot of different things that as a coach you have to deal with. But you have to figure out how to mold all that into a team framework. And then you have to figure out how you're going to win with that team. So I think most importantly, every single coach, every single year has got new personnel, new personalities, new things that he has to understand, and then figure out how he's going to motivate. But most important is understanding how to make those 12, 10, 15 players a team. And that requires some real understanding of your players.
Okay, we know that you coach also two national teams, Nigeria women national team and Bahrain men national team. So what did you use? It was foreign teams and different culture. What was it difficult to coach there? What you did?
Well, you're right, and I have coached Nigeria and I have coached Bahrain, but I also coached Senegal. I also coached South Africa. I also coached Jamaica, and so that's a brilliant question, because one of the challenges I always face when I'm coaching the national teams is number one, there's usually a foreign component to a national team. Meaning there's the local players from the country, and then there's a population of players who have, you know, probably trained and lived in America. And so even though, for example, my Nigerian national team had strong local Nigerian players who had never left the country, we also had some very strong Nigerian descent players that, you know, grew up in the US and still now they are Nigerians, but they're kind of American Nigerians. So when you put those 15 players together, you have to merge the cultural differences. You know, the players who are from home sometimes feel like, you know, this is a little bit more my team than it is your team. You're a little bit more, you know, maybe US than true local or whatever that country is. So my challenge has always been to make those guys understand that even though culturally there may be some differences, philosophically there may be some differences, we have to connect on the point that as a team, this is what we're trying to do to represent the country and go out and make the country proud. And once you're able to get them to connect on a very specific goal of making someone proud, specifically their country, then a lot of the other differences start to fall away.
Perfect. Thank you.
And spend some of the challenges around coaching national teams, but where I've been able to have some success.
Okay, perfect. So we have another question. I think it's question for very good question, because it's Nadia Shirabidze is asking how to get young kids off the screens and encourage them to go for sports. So I think this is basically what you are trying to do there, and some advice I think will help everybody.
Well, I think number one, you have to make it fun. And so I think, you know, one of the things that I'm very excited about, you know, having had a chance to coach internationally and connect with a lot of federations and national teams, is I always try to come in and do various coaches training programs. Because one of the things that I've observed in the United States and globally is most coaches always want to win. And that desire to win forces them a lot of times with youth teams to be too aggressive and to really make it so kids are either discouraged or don't want to participate. And so the thing that I like to encourage all the coaches is, in those foundational years where you're trying to get kids to be excited about playing and wanting to play, create a reward system and keep it very fun. So there's ways that you can develop and teach and motivate kids to want to improve, but it has to be done in a way where they feel like there's some benefit and some gains for them. And I think a lot of times that's where sports organizations or instructors, they fall a little bit short, because they're trying to reach the end goal before getting the kid excited about participating.
Yeah, and here kind of continue this question. Juan Francisco Delgado is asking, so could you please give the kids some advice how not to, be demotivated, how to keep the motivation go when they are failing in sports?
Well, I think, the thing that I like to encourage, whether it's on a professional level, national team level, or on a youth level, I like to encourage, the principles, again, that we're going to talk about, because I think it's important for kids to understand why they're doing what they're doing. And so, principles like work ethic and passion, I think it's important for coaches to understand that their most responsible duty is to develop the whole person. And too many times our youth coaches are thinking, I just want to make a great athlete. I just want to make him the best player. But in trying to create the best player, you're not creating the best person. And so when you round out the life skills around preparation, communication, work ethic, discipline, when you start to incorporate some of these things into your practice plan, you start giving the kids more tools to want to grow from, versus just, the kid who might not be able to shoot a good jump shot. And then now he's going to be demotivated to want to play because he doesn't have a good shot, or maybe he can't score. But if he's focused on the other principles around completing the person, then he may still feel connected.
Perfect. Thank you, Sam. So let's go to the principles. And as this COVID-19 hits everybody in the world, you want to start a good challenge with the championship principles. We'll show now the video that you are preparing for this challenge, and then we'll talk more about the challenge itself. Let's now watch the video.
Coach Academy and the Altamont Basketball League. On behalf of the city of Altamont Springs, I want to encourage everybody in our basketball family to remain positive and committed to growing in basketball during this difficult time. We miss you. We miss having a chance to see you on the practice court. Most of all, we miss you in the competitions. However, we know during this period of COVID-19, we all have to practice safe social distancing to make sure we all remain healthy and make it back on the court. During this period, I will be doing some online drills to make sure that you have a chance to continue to work on ball handling drills, footwork, and most importantly, conditioning. Got to stay fit during this period. We know that if we do that, we're going to have a chance to get back on the court and remain as usual at some point later on. So during this time, again, stay healthy, be safe, and we look forward to seeing you on the basketball court again real soon. The first drill we're going to work on, all you need is a cone or some black tape. Always important to create the defense. We're going to work on the triple threat position, receiving the ball ready to either pass, dribble, or shoot.
And am I able to talk through this a little bit?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, fantastic. So this video was prepared for a local parks and recreation organization here in the Orlando area, and like a lot of our partners, they're currently struggling with the fact that due to COVID-19, the summer camps, the local leagues, everything has been shut down. So that message was really to say to all of the parents, the coaches, and the players that it's very important to stay positive during this time. Even though we can't get together as groups of 10 or more and do our normal activities, there's still ways to get on the basketball court and work on basketball skills. And so they had asked me to put together a very soft strategy that we're actually building out. That was a demo tape that I'm going to actually be providing more instruction in the drills, but just something to give some motivation to kids to stay involved during this time.
I think this is what all world needed now to get motivated and to stay fit and to stay positive, as you said in your message. Okay, now I will start the PDF about the challenge, and you can talk over and explain more about what is challenge. So let's start it here, and you can talk about it.
Okay. So before I even go off of that page, Anna, I want to just maybe take a couple minutes and talk about what I consider the championship principles.
Sure.
Having had a chance to grow up in Lansing, Michigan, with Irvin Johnson, and a chance to really understand him as a player, as a leader, and as a competitor. There's been some real principles that I've had a chance to learn and understand why he's been as successful as he has. The other two guys, to me, having a chance to go to Boston was incredible, but having a chance to spend time around Larry Bird, I was able to see some very unique principles that I saw him incorporate, which I think also was the reason why he had his success. And then having a chance to play with Michael, not on a championship team, but in those pre-stages, I had a chance to again witness some principles that I thought he followed. So before I talk about the championship principles challenge, I just want to say, with Magic Johnson, three things that I really thought was critically important. And why I like to, with my teams, with players, with coaches, talk about these things that I feel need to be shared to our next generation of players. With Magic Johnson, I talk about passion, respect, and communication. And for all of my practice plans and when I'm working with coaches, I find a way, I have a curriculum and I find a way to help them understand how to build that in. Passion is so important. And a lot of times, if you ask a young kid what he's passionate about or why he's passionate about playing, he won't know why. So getting these kids to think about some of these principles has really led to what I believe some of the championships I've been able to enjoy as a coach. With Larry, confidence, preparation, and appreciation. These are three principles that I was able to observe. It's not about scoring 30 points on the floor all the time. It's not about all of the statistical categories. Sometimes how you build champions are about the principles that are important to them. And these are some of the things that I think are getting lost in developing the player and developing the team. And then with Michael, the three principles that I really talk about are work ethic, competitive spirit, and driven. And so these 9 principles, to me, are the thread and common blood between the championships that I believe these guys have been successful and won. And so when I'm working with coaches or when I'm working with my teams, I find different, unique ways to ask a player what he's passionate about. It might be in the post-game speech. It might be how I explain either we played well or we didn't play well in a after the game chalk talk. But these principles are something that I feel are important to developing players on and off the floor, because when they understand the importance of communication is body language, and your body language in the game, at practice, with your players, your teammates, the officials, it's important. And sometimes players, they just don't understand because they haven't been taught. So when we talk about the championship principles, it's these 9 principles that we're really talking about. Okay, so now that we've kind of established what the championship principles are, the championship principles challenge is really a concept that I want to introduce specifically because of the COVID-19 situation. Right now, we have an environment where we have a lot of kids that were excited and motivated for either summer basketball camps or Memorial Day tournaments. There's just a whole menu of activity that has been disrupted for kids due to the COVID-19 situation. And because of that, this Championship Principal Challenge to me is a way to connect them around an activity that's positive, that can teach them some very important life skills, but also give them a chance to record some activity that they can submit to win prizes. So the way this would work, Anna, is over a 9-week period, we would take each one of the principals, passion, for example, and we would ask the kid who has registered to participate in the Championship Principals Challenge, we would ask him to take that principle of the week, and he would have to give us over the course of that week how he's using that principle. What is he passionate about? How does he display his passion? What sport is he passionate about? And what does he do with it? After writing in on our form how he's passionate about whatever it is he has to say, that then gets submitted by a phone video. All the kids have phones now, so we would ask him to write out that passion form, and then take a 30-second video of some on-court activity that we would provide. So it would either be a ball handling drill, it could be a shooting drill, it could be a conditioning drill, but that along with the principal would be submitted back to our office. And then we would take that information, process it, and then weekly have a way with all of our participants to provide them some sort of gift opportunity. So we see this as a little bit of a fun way to encourage some life skill participation. Each week, the principal would change. The next week, it would be respect. So again, for example, who do you respect? Is it your parents? Is it your coach? How do you display your respect? We would come up with curriculum to ask different questions. Again, they would complete the form, email it back over to us or send it back to us. They could snapshot it and shoot it back to us, however they get it back. Then again, we would have another 30-second request for them to now do something different on the court. So we're encouraging some basketball activity on the court along with some life skill development. We want to do that for 9 weeks. And we've seen here around the Orlando community where several of our parks and recreations have really loved the concept and feel that this is a great way to motivate their kids to stay involved with the sport and some life skill development during this period of time.
I think that one aspect that deserves attention is maybe for you, Sam, to explain that these principles actually go way beyond sports. You know, all the exchanges that you participated, the sports diplomacy programs, your programs, start with this idea that sports is a very good educator about values, about ways of doing things. And I think one of the proofs of that is the fact that the people that you are talking about, and this includes yourself, are very successful beyond the sports career. And obviously, sure, you know, money plays a role, but many people have money and very few people are as accomplished, you know, as, let's say, businessmen or humanitarian businessmen as Michael Jordan or Magic Johnson or yourself. So if you could talk a little bit about this connection, about life skills, success in life in general, and learning all these characteristics through sports.
Absolutely, Vlad, for sure. So that is the real core reason why, again, I developed the championship principles. You know, I've had a chance to coach not only here in the U.S., but internationally as well. And what I recognize is just a breakdown in the core development of life skills around some of the athletes. And so at the point where a kid is, extremely talented, he may be even a superstar on his team, but he's the worst kid to be around because he doesn't respect the officials. His language is poor with the coaching staff. He's difficult to deal with on the floor because he's usually probably going to be a more selfish player. These principles start to help players understand why it's more important to develop the overall player versus just the statistical player. So when we talk again, and I'll just kind of, again, I want to tell a story because, these principles mean a lot to me because I've seen them applied. My year in Boston playing with the Celtics, everybody knows that the superstar on that team was Larry Bird. Larry was a guy that would put 150% in every single game. There was not one game that I could ever tell you Larry Bird didn't work 45 minutes to an hour before the game preparing, playing as hard as he could in the game, and then having some post-game workout. So a lot of the NBA level players will really go into a post-game routine where they may jump on the treadmill, they may jump on the bike, they may go lift weights even after they've played a 45-minute game. Larry Bird was a guy that after the game, when our community relations department would come in and ask guys, who's willing to go out and speak to a youth group? It might have been the Boys and Girls Club. It might have been Parks and Recreations. There was a lot of different youth organizations in the city of Boston that our team was responsible to go out and speak to. The one guy who had played the most minutes, scored the most points, and could realistically say, I'm not interested, was Larry Bird. But he was always the guy who would accept those engagements first. And so I connect that to appreciation as his principle, because for those on the call who might have not have understood some of Larry's background, Larry really had a difficult background to get to the success that he ultimately achieved. And because of some of those difficulties that he went through, by the time he got to his success at the Celtics, was very appreciative. He was appreciative of the journey that he went on. A lot of times our current players forget what they should appreciate. And unless a coach really understands how to find ways to explain appreciation so that they learn how to appreciate the time that a coach puts in, or a parent puts in, or an administrator puts in, they take it for granted. And so that principle around appreciation is one example that I like to talk about with Larry Bird, because his appreciation for what he was able to accomplish as a Boston Celtic, for where he was able to be, carried over into how he connected with the community. And that's just one example of how I think those principles are important.
And it's also this idea that greatness means making the other ones better around you. So everybody says that Michael Jordan was great from the very beginning, but when he really stepped up and was successful was when he empowered his teammates. And there's a quote here from Larry Bird, it doesn't matter who scores the points, it's who gets the ball to the scorer. So that's another principle that probably has tremendous value in people understanding what makes somebody truly great.
Well, I think in the example, of Michael Jordan and how he was able to motivate his players to become great, leaders lead by example. We all know that. And so you can't be the leader and come in, pointing the finger because you're the best player. You have to be the leader because you work harder than everybody else. And so when I talk about work ethic and driven in the principles for Michael Jordan, Michael was the first guy at practice, and he was the one guy working the hardest in every single drill. So when you have that kind of work ethic, and when you're driven to be the best, by that, you don't have to be a verbal leader. You're leading by example. And so a lot of times I try to encourage coaches to help players understand that you don't have to talk it, go on the floor and do it. And so those principles to me are an example of how Michael Jordan was really able to cross over as a great leader because of how hard he worked on the floor.
Perfect. Thank you, Sam. And I want to mention that the challenge will start from June 1st. And
Yes.
I posted the email in the chat, and you are free to share with your players, with your friends, whoever wants to participate in challenge. I think that it will be a very good challenge and we'll have very good results. And we love to see as many countries participating in the challenge as we can get. So now, Sam, I have a very interesting question here from Jude Titus, and it's written, you are one of the best players basketball has seen over the years. Why do you think women's basketball has not been highlighted much if you compare to the men's game? What are you doing to create the balance?
Well, I think, again, if you look at, what the NBA has done in terms of creating the WNBA, clearly there's a commitment to women's basketball there. I think the WNBA has produced some fantastic players. I think from a marketing standpoint, every single year the NBA has done more to promote the league and to try to create more awareness for the league. I think if you look statistically, that some stats show that women's basketball is even growing faster at some levels than boys basketball. A lot of girls are playing the game. So I think it's an evolution of time. I think you have, the world's greatest basketball organization in the NBA supporting women's basketball. And I think as the skill level continues to grow, the fan participation is growing. And I'm confident that over the next 5 years, that growth is going to continue. And at some point, there's going to be some real balance between, probably the women's game and the men's game. But I think there is a focus on it. And I think it's just a matter of time before there's a major explosion in women's basketball.
If you see in AAU how many it's comparing with boys, how many girls are coming to start to play basketball? I mean, what age they are coming? Is it balanced or not? Or more boys are coming to play?
Well, right now for AAU basketball, both the girls and the boys programs are very strong. One of the great things about the AAU program is the focus really is not always the elite player. A lot of times it's just that kid who wants to play basketball. And so if you look at, a lot of situations here in the United States, there might be 100 kids that go and try out for the school freshman team. And out of those 100 kids who try out, only 12 kids are going to make the team. So 88 kids are going to get cut and not have a chance to play. And that's where I believe the beauty of the AAU is every kid gets a chance to play. So their motto of sports for all forever is true in the fact that if you're a kid and you want to play on a team, there's probably an AAU club where you're going to have a chance to play. And I think we all know that kids develop at different stages. A kid who's 11 years old, who's maybe a little bit clumsy, doesn't really possess the skills, by 14 could be 6'5" and a great shooter. So sometimes you just need an opportunity to continue to grow and play. And I think that's one of the foundations where the AAU has really been strong in the communities around the U.S. And I think that's something they're now looking to expand into the international market and do. I think there's an opportunity to do these programs globally and to create regional competitions in some of the foreign countries and give more kids a chance to play. And ultimately, it's all, for me, it's all about kids having a chance to play with good coaches and develop as people.
Perfect. So we'll get last question here. Is from Bahpna Dahane. He's asking if you are considering to coach Angola men's team. I think now everybody wants you to be their national team coach.
Well, let me just say this. Man, it has been fantastic having the opportunity to coach national teams. I only say a couple things about a couple of the national teams that I've coached. The Nigerian national team that I coached with Ime Udoka, Ebi Ara, Tunji Awajobi, Alumide. We reached the quarterfinals of the 2006 World Championships in Tokyo. And we lost to a Dirk Nowitzki Germany team by 2 points, and had a chance to advance on to the semifinals. With Jamaica, I've had Samardo Samuels, I've had Kamani Friend, and we've had a chance to go into the Tournament of Americas and win games that nobody believed we had a chance to win. And that's happened with the Nigerians women team, where we've been undefeated and had more success than expected. And so I say that to say all of my teams overachieve. And that's really my focus. You're either going to underachieve or overachieve. And most of my teams overachieve. And it's been an honor to have a chance to come in and work with these players and represent a country. I haven't spoke to anyone from Angola. I was just coaching the Bahrain national team, where we came in as the 130th ranked team in the world, and we beat India, which was ranked, I think, 74th. So we usually come in as underdog, but we usually come out with a win. And it's always a pleasure for me to have an opportunity to work with different countries.
Let's see how many from India in the audience. We might get some reactions at this point after this. Sam, what do you see in general, beyond competitive sports, in terms of interest for basketball abroad? Because you travel a lot, you coach all over the place. Do you feel that the basketball is really reaching new grounds in terms of popularity, involvement, grassroots? And this is what the AAU experience comes into play, internationalizing the experience. Obviously, junior NBA, tremendous success worldwide. What do you feel about the mass appeal of basketball worldwide these days?
Well, I've had a chance, Vlad, to coach in Africa, obviously with the national teams. I've had a chance to coach in China with one of the pro teams there. Obviously, I've coached in the U.S. I've coached in Europe. When I was coaching in Larissa, Greece, I had a 16-year-old named Vasilis Spanoulis. That 16-year-old who I taught the championship principles later became one of Europe's best players, is still currently playing for Olympiacos in Greece, and is probably, one of the guys who's considered almost the LeBron of Europe. When you ask, is the international game interest growing? Absolutely. I've most recently been coaching in the Middle East, specifically Bahrain, but in that responsibility, we're in Dubai, we're in Qatar, we're in Saudi, we're in Kuwait, and the tremendous interest in basketball, not only from the players and coaches, but also from the parents. And so one of the things, you mentioned the junior NBA, and I think, again, the NBA has done just an incredible job with the junior NBA program, because, again, it provides more opportunities for more kids to play this game under the NBA banner. And I think every kid loves that opportunity. I think the AAU, just genuinely as a great nonprofit sports organization in the United States, is motivated to give kids more opportunities to play. So a lot of kids internationally and parents now are seeing the opportunity to play collegiate basketball as a real avenue, and navigating that process requires support. And I think that's an area where the AAU wants to be supportive, and it's surely my interest as part of heading up some of the international development for the AAU. We want to provide parents with a clear understanding of what it takes. If you've got a 14-year-old and they're playing anywhere in the world and they're trying to find a path to get to a collegiate opportunity, there's a road to do that. And we want to help simplify that process and help you understand it.
Definitely. Now, if the technology is going to help us, we have Mahmoud online. So Mahmoud leads a basketball program, very inclusive basketball program in Israel. And he, during this challenging period, COVID-19, he put together a few exercises in order to actually continue to stimulate the athletes and the coaches. So what we are trying to do right now is to show you a video, and Mahmoud is also online. And then we'll just take it from there. Maybe you could comment regarding the video. Maybe Mahmoud could tell us a few words after that about the reasons he chose these exercises versus others. Okay, Mahmoud, if you could hear or see us, maybe you could say a few words about the reasons you chose these drills and what you are trying to do in order to maintain interest for the sport, but also the skill level that is needed when life is going to again become normal.
Thank you, Vlad, and it's an honor to be with you, Sir Vincent. Thank you for sharing your experience. We in Hoops for Peace nonprofit organization, our mission is to create a safe space where young youths, Jewish and Arab, can come together, play basketball and make new friends. And especially in the quarantine time, with everybody at home, we focus on preventing injuries and improving range of motion for the athletes, which is so important. So our coaches in Hoops for Peace working during this time with especially girls and boys basketball players in Israel, to most athletes in the country and the world don't follow their exercises routine to coronavirus. Therefore, their bodies and exposed to injuries. It is important for the players to learn how to keep fit during lockdown through daily exercises they can do alone in order to minimize damage. And this is so important, so we choose to work with the youths, the simple exercises to prevent injuries and mobility. And this is what we're trying to do as nonprofit organization in Israel during this odd time that we are all together in this.
Thank you, Mahmoud. And I want to mention that Mahmoud was part of one of the sports diplomacy exchange programs, and he's doing tremendous work back home. So Sam, what do you think about these drills, and how does it fit with what you have in mind for your programs back in the United States, programs that are trying also to become global?
I think it's fantastic, Vlad. I want to congratulate Mahmoud on putting that short video together. I think he's spot on when he talks about the importance of being able to present some virtual activity. And a lot of kids, a lot of times we assume kids know, but I've come to realize kids don't know. And so we think they're gonna, get out there, and we think they're gonna do some of the basics, but they're not. They're gonna stay at home. They're gonna be on their video games. They're gonna sit around, and then their muscles are gonna atrophy, and they're gonna be a year behind. And so I think, opportunities like what Mahmoud has put together around just showing some very basic, easy to follow stretching, some strengthening, along with some basic basketball, ball handling, footwork, conditioning is needed during this time. And there's a big population of kids out there, I believe, that are in desperate need of it. So I want to congratulate Mahmoud for what he put together and say I think it's very valuable. And I think having a platform where we can get to the kids and provide these virtual tips is going to be very important.
Yeah, and again, an appeal to all our international audience is to be in touch with Sam, to actually look at his program, because the goal is actually to become, for this program to become global, because it appeals to general values, to general principles, to practical things that are important for sports and for life in general, and that are applicable worldwide. One question I would like to ask you, Sam, also in relation to this period. So we know that during COVID-19, again, as always, the NBA has tremendous initiatives. NBA Together is one of them. Magic Johnson is involved. So I want to ask you in general about this idea of athletes like you, and you've been involved with Magic Johnson in many initiatives of this kind, for doing public good, contributing, using the star value in order to be transformation, to promote, values and principles that are so important, mostly during a time of crisis like the one that we are going through now.
Well, I think I genuinely believe it's what the NBA taught us. A big part of the NBA, people see on the court, and the LeBrons, and the Steph Currys, and the Kobe's and the Michaels. You know them from their exploits on the floor. They're incredible talents. But the thing that people may not know is how committed the NBA is in being in the community and working with the hospitals and the Boys and Girls Clubs, and having the players go in and share, whether it's Read to Achieve or thousands of other programs that encourage these kids in a very positive way to continue to be positive and confident and aspire to reach their goals. And for me, it's that lesson that I learned from the NBA that I believe can be shared through junior NBA programs. I believe it can be shared by the AAU, because the AAU has over 800,000 participants across all their sports. So for me, it's genuinely about taking those experiences that we've learned and being able to share them with the next generation of youth, with the hopes and aspirations that it will encourage them to work hard to fulfill their dreams. And we don't know how many are going to follow the principles and actually accomplish their goals, but we know if we don't share some of these stories and try to motivate, then none will. So if we're able to connect with a small population of kids that, because they saw a video or heard a message, and that 5% or 10% goes on and becomes a doctor or a police officer or whatever their goal was, then we're proud of the contribution we made to that young player's success.
Let's see if we could connect now to Ryan Murphy, who is the Sports Diplomacy Program Officer for the State Department. Since these generous ideas projected abroad are actually, part of what sports diplomacy is trying to achieve. So Ryan, if you could hear us or see us, if you could unmute your microphone, if you could say a few words, let's see if you could connect with Ryan.
Yep, I'm here. Sam, great to see you. We've talked on the phone a couple times, and just great to connect virtually. Obviously, it would be nicer to do it in better situations, but this is how the world is right now. So it's great to see so many familiar faces from a lot of different programs that we've helped run with World Learning over the years. So a little bit about sports diplomacy. I know I've talked about this before. A lot of what we do, people know through our connection with sports and with the leagues and federations like the NBA. We do a lot of sports envoy trips where we send professional and Olympic athletes overseas to work with the US embassies to do camps and clinics. But the program that I oversee and the program that World Learning is heavily involved in is the International Sports Programming Initiative. So it's our sports grants competition. We give the funds to US-based nonprofits for them to help us implement these two-way exchanges. So we send groups of Americans overseas to work in the local communities overseas, and then also bring groups of foreign coaches, administrators, youth to the US for these exchanges. Many of you on this session have been a part of those programs in one way or another, which I think is a good segue. Sam, you were a part of the program that traveled to Morocco in 2018 underneath this initiative. And you had a WNBA great Shamik Holtzclaw that was with you, as well as a number of youth and coaches from the US. Can you talk a little bit about that experience and how that has been slightly different from a lot of the times that you've been overseas coaching or when you've just traveled personally, and really what impact that had in Morocco? And then knowing that you worked so closely with Thibaut Morocco, who I'm sure is on this call or on this session, what impact do you feel like you could take back to this new role that you have with the AAU through these lessons learned?
Well, thanks, Ryan. It's equally a pleasure to have the opportunity to meet you kind of face to face. Yes, we've had a chance to speak, and it's been a pleasure. And I really appreciate what you do. I appreciate what the State Department does. I appreciate sports diplomacy being the foundation of who I am as an individual, having grown up in sports and my life being connected to most of the things that I've been able to accomplish. They've come through either sports or through the principles of sports. So thank you for what you do in terms of trying to share that message around the world. The initiative that we did in Morocco, I thought it was fantastic. I thought World Learning was incredible with the local organizations that we were able to partner with to be able to connect with a variety of different groups that were involved with sports in that community. So not only was it about connecting with the kids, which we did a clinic where we had probably 100 to 200 kids where we ran them through some activity on the court, some basic ball handling drills, some shooting drills, and most importantly, we allowed them to have a lot of fun and to be engaged. And then also during that same session, we were able to talk to them about important life lessons and things that kids need to hear and things that kids need to learn to help them grow into solid people. From there, we were able to also connect with other organizations in the area of Morocco, whether it was coaches, administrators, all of these different groups that we connected to somehow were playing a role in developing youth through sports. And then Thibaut, lastly, was just fantastic. They organized some of the government officials that are involved in different levels of politics that are probably key for different funding initiatives or connecting with the schools or different ways to connect with the parents. And collectively, all of those different groups that we met with, they all part and parcel play some sort of major role in helping us and organizations like us get to the kids. So to have the chance to go into Morocco along with Chamika, who she's a Hall of Famer, great WNBA player, and share some of these experiences, some of our stories, but also lead them through teamwork and the value of working together for a common goal. I think it's invaluable. And so one of the things that Ryan, I always love about all of my, whether it's coaching assignments or heading up national teams, is there's always a community component to it. It doesn't matter if it's a national team or if it's a local pro team. All of those scenarios have some population of kids that are looking up to those athletes or those coaches. And because those kids are looking up to you, you have a responsibility to connect with them and share important messages and help develop them and help train them. And so each of the initiatives that I've had a chance, whether it's been individually going in as a head coach or with the Sports Envoy program, which similarly to the one in Morocco, I had a chance to do in Jordan many years ago. I think they're all valuable and all worthwhile because we're always sharing opportunities for real, genuine growth in a way that is a soft strategy, and kids engage, parents engage, and the administrators engage. And I'm always proud to have an opportunity to be involved.
And talking about Tibu, so I just talked a few days ago with Amin. I'm not sure if Amin is here, the head of Tibu, or Hicham. And we continue to work together, and we'll reach out to you, Sam, for this, because they envision a program on sports and employability, helping kids, learn to, get jobs, be entrepreneurs through sports. So that's a very viable thing. And in the spring, in April, I think there is going to be a summit in Casablanca on sports and education. Obviously, will involve you and hopefully, definitely, hopefully State Department in this activity. So all these activities are seeds planted for them to continue. And Tibu is a very good example of something like this happening. So now I'll take it back to Anna, just to mention at the beginning, from my perspective, Sam, thanks a lot for everything that you do. Thanks a lot for being part of our lives and programs. And we hope to continue to do this for a long time. So this program was obviously available on Zoom, but also broadcast simultaneously on Facebook and YouTube. There's going to be a recording. And with this announcement, back to Anna.
Thank you, Vlad. I want to thank you, Vlad, Ryan, and Sam. And Sam, I want to one more time share the email. So I want to remind you that the challenge starts in June 1st. And if you want to be part of the challenge, to participate in challenge, please send the email to this email shown on the screen. And then you will get the instructions from Global Coach. Right, Sam?
That is correct. Yep.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, that's correct. And if I could, just in closing, just 20 seconds, I just,
sure.
You kind of touched, Vlad, on the AAU. I just want to say, all of our goals and objectives collectively are to develop youth. And the AAU has reached an incredible partnership with the Walt Disney World here in Orlando, Florida. So when we talk about, I know Ryan mentioned exchange programs. A lot of the kids that we work with have a chance to come into Orlando and participate in programs here at Walt Disney World. They've built an incredible sports complex. There's also other cultural events that take place, as well as university visits. So just in terms of really, rounding out that pure exchange opportunity, I don't think you could have a better partner than Walt Disney World, AAU, and obviously the NBA.
Thank you, Sam. Thank you. I want to thank everybody, all the participants, and Sam and my colleague Vlad, and we have my colleagues Lauren and Lakin here helping us, and colleagues from Digital Communication Network. Thank you, everybody. I want you, everybody, to keep in touch, because we'll have more webinars with Sam. We'll keep you in touch, and we will post all our new information on our social media. Please follow. I want to remind you that this webinar was arranged by World Learning and Digital Communication Network and supported by Sports Diplomacy, a division of the State Department. So stay in touch, stay safe, and thanks for being with us today, and see you soon. Bye, everybody.
Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Ciao.